Renault were the first 2 years ago. The trend was being set in family cars by the introduction of the Scenic, a superb yet simple idea. Take one ordinary hatchback family car and turn it into a high-roofed vehicle which can seat perhaps 5 or 7 people. And that's why the Renault Scenic has sold like hot croissants in the past 2 years. 540,000 built and sold, and here in the UK they account for 42% of all Megane sales. And most importantly, they take up no more space on the road than your average family car. So bring on the next competitor, please, which is this, the Vauxhall Zafira. Now, interestingly, Vauxhall have stolen a march on their competitors like Ford and VW with the introduction of the Zafira. And, most importantly, over the Scenic, it seats 7 people. The flexibility of the new Zafira is amazing. You can sit here or here. On the second row of seats, you can sit here, here in the middle, and as a 5th passenger, here. But there's more. And here's where Vauxhall steal a march on their rivals, because this 3rd row of seats gives you more flexibility. You can sit here, and finally here, seat number 7. So the Zafira is the first genuine 7-seat mini MPV, and what makes it interesting over its rivals is that you don't have to mess about taking the seats out, as in other MPVs. You take them in, you take them out, you have to find somewhere to store them. The seats stay permanently in here, and they're fairly easy to sort out. First of all, to put these two back, we have to do that. Lay that one flat there. The same with this one here. Lift that handle. Lay it flat, and then that second row of seats will just slide back. Hey presto, and you've got all that load space back again. When all the seats are up, there's really no load space at all, but with it down, it's not bad at all. Now, I drove the new Astra just over a year ago, and its handling was a complete revelation. Superb work by Lotus engineers has produced an excellent handling car, albeit with a dull interior. The Zafira can't quite match the Astra in terms of handling due to its higher centre of gravity, but still makes a pretty good job of it. Performance in this 1.8-litre Zafira is really quite respectable. A 113 brake horsepower engine produces 125 pounds-feet of torque. It gets to 60 in just over 10 seconds and onto a top speed of 114 miles per hour. The Zafira's short gearing contributes to that good performance, but produces perhaps a bit more wind noise into the cabin than you'd like, and also makes it a bit thirstier. Expect fuel consumption figures around 24 to 30 as an average. The Zafira's body control obviously isn't as tight as the Astra hatchback, and it just rolls a bit going round corner, but it's still impressive for what is a tall car. The steering is good and has plenty of feel. The clutch is light. The gear change, though, is a bit notchy and has a bit too much of a long throw, and there's a silly centre armrest which gets in the way of just about everything, including the handbrake. But it's still a car that you can push hard and have a bit of fun in when you haven't got loads of kids in the back. At launch, the Zafira comes with a choice of 2 petrol engines, 1.6 and 1.8 litre, plus there's a 2 litre direct injection diesel engine on the way later this year. It also comes in a choice of 3 different trim styles. Now, Vauxhall seem to have taken a leaf out of Mercedes' book, the top of the range one. This one is called the Elegance. There's also just plain old Zafira and Zafira Comfort, but it offers plenty of choice. The cabin, though, is still a bit drab and dreary. It just lacks a bit of je ne sais quoi, but with its Flex 7 seating arrangement offers something the Scenic hasn't got. So at the moment, if you want a mini MPV, well, there's the Scenic and the new Zafira, but stand by because there's lots more on the way, including Fiat's wacky Multipla, that's here soon. Ford should have a Focus One on sale, VW a Golf mini MPV, plus the Nissan Tino and the Mazda Premacy. They're clever, they're stylish, they're handsome, they're the latest trend. Why not climb aboard?
Now, we drive a lot of new cars on the Granada Men and Motors channel. After all, it's our job. We bring the reports to you every week, which we hope you appreciate. And quite often we drive new vehicles, completely new vehicles, ones that aren't even in the dealership yet. Now, at the time of driving this, at the time of recording this, this Vauxhall Zafira won't be on sale for another month or so. So one would have thought, as has been the case when we have driven cars in the past, which haven't been out yet, you get a few stares, you get a few people pointing, a few sort of, don't know what that is, do you, Bob? But so far today, no one's noticed. Now, it could be because of the, dare I say, bland styling of this new Vauxhall Zafira. Now, that could be, actually, a design feature that's been built in by Vauxhall. After all, if you drive a full-size MPV, it does tend to rather say, hey, look at me, I'm a family person. I have 3 kids in the back, I do the school run every day, and I go to most school plays. Now, if you've got a mini MPV like this one, and after all, this looks like a pumped-up Astra, which of course it is based on an Astra. Many things are different, but it is after all an Astra. Maybe that anonymity is what the average family person really wants. What the Zafira offers is the mini MPV experience, the one that has been so successful for the Renault Scenic. Now, the Scenic, of course, offers 5 seats, and it offers the mini MPV experience. You don't get much luggage space, but you're high up. You get all the advantages that you get in a full-size MPV, but without the hassle of parking and having a thirsty engine and all that nonsense. So it took the industry by surprise, I must admit. Many car companies thought, hang on, this Renault Scenic is taking off, people are buying it, let's get going, boys. And of course the Mazda Premacy, Ford have got one coming out. Quite a few companies have got mini MPVs coming up in the next few years. Now, the Vauxhall Zafira really is the first in this new wave of mini MPVs, and I think that it will be a big success. My colleagues have driven this as well as myself. We've all agreed that it is much more refined, it is much more solid than the Renault Scenic, and also it offers 2 more seats, albeit little baby seats that pop up at the back. They're children's seats. You couldn't really put adults in there for an appreciable amount of time. But they are 2 more seats, and that might make all the difference between choosing this and the Renault Scenic. After all, the luggage space is poor really in both, and if you are going to seriously take 7 people away on a weekend or wherever, you are still going to need a pod on the roof, but there again you would still if you had a full-size MPV. The Vauxhall Zafira is a very smooth car to drive. It has got, in this particular version, which is the Elegance, which is the top of the range, a 1.8 engine, it is so smooth that it's very quiet indeed. On the motorway it's extremely quiet as well. The wind noise is very, very low. I don't understand how they do it. Because it looks the same sort of shape as the Scenic, but it's got a much better CD value, which is the aerodynamic factor, and basically the wind noise is minimized. On the niggle side, I would say that the gears worry me a little bit. They're just a little bit too low down. I think the throw is a bit too long as well, and this flipping armrest gets in the way. No, I can't even put it down now. I have to find the book, and that gets in the way of throwing the gears, which annoys me. And also something that annoys me, but it annoys me in every Vauxhall, is stupid display outfit here. I just don't understand why we need to know the outside temperature, today's date, and the time, which, you know, just burns into your eyes every time you look down at the dashboard. But all Vauxhalls have got that, so we can't really just complain just about the Zafira and that particular thing. But the gears, please look at that Vauxhall. I think they're a bit rubbery. I think it could be a bit sportier and nicer, please. Well, I must admit that the Vauxhall Zafira was a big hit on our family weekend. The kids in the back liked being up high so they could look out the windows. They get less bored on the long journey. I enjoyed it more because the kids were less bored. My wife enjoyed it, not just for the driving experience, but because it was much quieter actually, and especially at speed in our normal car we drive, it's very difficult to hold a conversation. And I think refinement is a very, very important factor, especially if you have young kids and you want to communicate with them instead of shouting at them all the time. So that does help, and it helps for a nice, peaceful, harmonious family. So if you're choosing between the Renault Scenic and the Vauxhall Zafira, obviously drive them both. Some people may be put off by the bland styling of the Zafira and like the French charm of the Renault, and maybe you don't need those 2 extra seats in the back, which is fine. I think you have to weigh up the price of one against the other very carefully. But I personally like the Zafira. If I had to choose a mini MPV, it would be a Vauxhall Zafira at the moment. But if time isn't of the essence and you don't have to choose straight away, well, wait 6 to 9 months, because soon there'll be many more mini MPVs on the market, and then you'll have your choice of half a dozen.
After the break, we'll drive Zafira's rivals, the established Scenic and the new Fiat Multipla.
Now, I'm one girl who's always been a little bit wary of beauty competitions, cars or otherwise, and the Scenic can shout out all it likes that it's car of the year. But what's it actually like to live with and to drive? Of course, this vehicle is from those rather clever people at Renault, the people who credit themselves with inventing the people mover, although I'm sure the chaps at Chrysler would have a thing or two to say about that. But nonetheless, the Scenic was always going to be something very different, and it hasn't let you down. It's packed with a whole host of innovations, not least of which is the rather alarming number of secret cubby holes and storage places, one of which is neatly tucked down here. Now, the only thing I can see with all these is that it could be a problem remembering where you've stashed all your stuff. There are airline-style tables that fold up from the back of the front seats, and they come complete with the good old cup holders. And each of these 3 seats in the back can be taken out to give you more space. They all also move around independently and have their own 3-point seat belts, which means, of course, an end to the squabbles over which of your 3 kids has to sit on the lumpy bit in the middle. In fact, this centre seat can even fold down to become a table, or if you want to take it out completely, you can replace it with a locker or even a portable fridge. But hey, if you've got a fridge on board, then surely you'll be needing a PowerPoint. What you mean? Like this one, just down here. A car that's really thought of absolutely everything. Yes, there are floor pockets, door pockets, map pockets, every conceivable kind of pocket. Perhaps this is Renault's idea of a game for the kids on a long journey. Forget spot how many red cars you pass. Let's play spot the number of pockets in the Scenic. In the 2 weeks that I've been driving this vehicle, there is just one thing that has driven me absolutely mad. You come to it laden with bags, with all your gear that you load in because there's lots of space for all that. And then you come to start it. Key in the ignition and off you go. But no, you don't, because this clever immobiliser kicks in after you've had the vehicle unlocked for just 60 seconds. So you have to do this, lock it again, unlock it again, and then you start it, and finally you can set off. Now, I know it's meant to be a security vehicle, but somehow it makes me feel as if it's protecting the vehicle from me. Oh well. But of course, functional and practical is one thing, but let's see what it's like on the road. In a world where we like our vehicles to fit comfortably into a certain category so we know just what it is that we're driving, the Megane Scenic has a class all of its own. It's not quite MPV, but not quite family car. But thankfully I can tell you that the Scenic shares its driving characteristics with a car rather than with an MPV. Now, this is the 2-litre petrol version, and it's really quite nippy and agile. It gets in and out of traffic around town without any problems, it has good acceleration, and it cruises quite comfortably out on the motorway as well. The Scenic steering is extremely light, and there is a hint of understeer as you hit some corners. You know, I have to say that for me the steering is too light, but I suppose that if you've been out all day and you're carrying heavy shopping bags and tired children, which, let's remember, this is what this vehicle is designed for, then something with steering as light as this might be quite welcome. As with everything else, the interior is also extremely well thought out. It's functional and everything laid out just where you'd like it to be. My only gripe really is the handbrake, which is a little bit awkward to reach. You've got to remember that the Scenic was designed to get you, your family and all the clutter you carry around with you from A to B in relative ease and comfort. And it really does just that. It's extremely easy to drive and in no time at all you will feel comfortable behind the wheel. Don't let the size put you off because it really isn't a problem. It's extremely easy to park, extremely easy to drive. The only thing I would say is that you do experience a fair amount of body roll, which is quite normal for a vehicle of this height and this weight. If you haven't experienced it before, it will seem a little bit strange, but don't let it worry you. You soon become used to it. And trust me, driving it is really not a problem. Now, it may drive more like a car than an MPV, but thankfully it's got a lot of the features that we love so much about the MPVs. It has this wonderful high driving position. You're sat up here on the road and you can see everything around you. It also feels extremely light and airy and there's loads of space, another thing that you get from an MPV. Now these two factors when combined means that you have a lovely position behind the wheel and visibility is absolutely excellent, and that's not only very good for the driver but also good for the passengers and particularly the kids that are stuck in the back seat on those long journeys. So yes, I have to say the Scenic is one beauty that really deserves the accolades bestowed upon it. It claims to be an activity vehicle and that it certainly is. But you know, it may be packed with every conceivable gadget and gizmo, but for me it's missing the ultimate 90s accessory. A big fluffy dog and a couple of kids.
Ever imagined a family car that gets you more attention than a Ferrari supercar? Impossible? Well, meet the Multipla. The instant reaction to Fiat's new Multipla is shocking, weird, wacky, and ugly. It is a car that is absolutely impossible to ignore, and believe me, nobody does.
Well, I saw as I pulled onto the car park here from the outside, and I thought it was rather ugly looking, particularly from the front. It was a very unusual shaped, also like a fold of flesh over the bonnet, a bit like a boxer dog from the front. The interior is very impressive. There's loads of space. I particularly like the central pod here. Does that? I don't suppose that turns to face this way at all, does it?
No, it doesn't move. It's actually.
Yeah, it's the gear stick here, leaving all the space there in the centre of the floor is a nice touch as well.
I think it will take off because the seats are very, very comfortable, considering it's a six-seater car. Because sometimes if you sat in the back of like my Peugeot saloon and there's three of you, you're all bunched up together, but you've got three actual seats in the back and three in the front. So I think it will take off for a family car.
Fiat believe we're changing the way that we look at cars. We're no longer apparently looking at them as style objects or status symbols. They actually say that what we're looking for now is an everyday tool that's functional, but also gives you plenty of scope for pleasure. So having accepted that the whole world will be looking at you, what's it actually like to drive? First impressions are very lively. And that's an even bigger impression when you realise it's a 1.9 diesel. Fiat have spent an awful lot of time on soundproofing on the Multipla, and it shows. This is a very quiet vehicle. As soon as you've got it running, you would not believe you were in a diesel. One of the key unusual areas, of course, is the gear stick here mounted on the dash. That's because of the 3-seat configuration, so you've got plenty of room for the extra passenger in the front. And the other thing that strikes you is how airy the cabin is and how great the visibility is. You've got huge sweeping windows to the front and to the side. Although I found one problem with the window over the days I was driving, it collects flies like nothing you've ever seen. The other thing that you quickly notice is how easy and relaxing the Multipla is to drive. The controls, they look a bit bizarre when you first see them here. This huge pod sticking out, but they're actually very functional. You've got one main speedometer straight just to the right of you here, which has got everything you need on it. All the dials are easy to hand, to touch, and it really is a very practical machine. The other great thing about the Multipla is it's what we call in the trade a grower. Everyone who's seen it, after the initial gasp and shock and saying that's terrible, or God, what does that look like? By the end of a journey in it, they'll love it. I had one friend, a New Zealand aficionado of cars, and he thought it was dreadful at first. At the end of the day, he was raving about it. How comfortable it was, how he liked the very fresh, different interior. Fiat are aiming the Multipla directly at Renault's hugely successful Scenic in the mini people carrier sector. So how practical is it? 6 seats, 3 in the front, 3 in the back. The middle one in the front is excellent because it actually eases just back from the driver and the other passenger, so you don't have any clash with the driver. It also folds down and turns into a mini table if there's no passenger, which is, again, very functional. In the back, all 3 seats will actually come out. You can also lay all 3 of them flat, and they also can move forward slightly so that you can have the option of more luggage space or more passenger space.
It seems to be very versatile. The 3 seats across the front as opposed to just a bench seat or whatever. Particularly like this one with folding down to provide a table and drink space if you've got kiddies in the back. It's for the side. It doesn't look that large from the outside, but see, it can quite easily fit 6 people inside. It should be. I'd love to have a go, any chance, you know.
But I don't think it's a very nice looking car, to be quite truthful. But I think it's practical for a large family, and storage as well, which is obviously with pushchairs and prams and car seats and things. I think it is a family car.
So, the million-dollar question, will it sell? Well, it doesn't come on sale in the UK until January of next year, but it's been on sale for 3 months in Italy and 2 other countries in Europe, and Fiat have sold 30,000. Now, the fact that Fiat didn't expect to sell any more than 40,000 in an entire year confirms maybe that they were as unsure as the rest of us as to just how well such an extreme vehicle would sell. But clearly, it's got an awful lot of potential, and the public appear, if not exactly to love it, to be intrigued enough to buy it.